right, well, hello, welcome everyone. Nice to see us all again. For this our second discussion on the Sarashina Diary. I'm very excited to hear what you have to say about the research that we all read on, or by Sonia Arntzen, on more background information, more information on the manuscript most people use when they are translating and researching Sarashina Diary, and then also her dreams. Um, yeah. Oh, I forgot to change this. This is not Ivan Morris. I meant to write Sonia Arntzen. But anyway, so the important people here are the Sugawara no Takasue no Musume, the daughter of Sugawara no Takasue, who wrote the text, of course, as we are familiar with. And then now Sonia Arntzen. She is another translator of this text, and she is the one of the two authors who wrote the research that we read for this time. The other one is Ito Moriyuki, and unfortunately, I could not find any picture of
Mhm.
said person, so we're just looking at Sonia Arntzen. But to talk a little bit about her, she is a professor emerita from the University of Toronto. Her research interests are specifically kanji, which are Chinese language poems written in the early medieval and classical era, primarily or really entirely by Japanese male courtiers, and then Heian women writers, of course. Her education is very interesting. She started out with a bachelor's in French and Fine Arts from the University of British Columbia before moving on to getting her master's and PhD at the same institution, but for Asian studies. And some of her other publications that are important are this one from 1986, Ikkyu and the Crazy Cloud Anthology, written by a Muromachi period Zen priest who was a poet. And then she's currently working on the Ochikubo Monogatari, which is kind of like a 10th century Heian period version of the Cinderella story. Um, yeah. So some of the facts that we were reading about in these chapters from this book by Sonia Arntzen. She talks about the tradition of diaries in Heian Japan and how they kind of come from China, and it's a Sinitic word adopted into Japanese, and how it was a tradition primarily written in Chinese by Japanese male courtiers, but then it starts getting into the Japanese vernacular and women start writing it. And there are the six main Nikki, six main diaries of the classical era. The first one being the Tosa Nikki or the Tosa Diary, which was written by a man, excuse me, Kinotsura Yuki. But in the very beginning, Tsurayuki says that he wants to see what it would be like, or if it is possible, to write a Nikki from the perspective of a woman, which is why it's written in the vernacular Japanese, because that was the only language women were allowed to use at this time. Chinese was restricted to men. We learned about Fujiwara no Teika and the first, or not the first, but the primary manuscript that is used when people research the Sarashina Diary. It's by Fujiwara no Teika and his relationship with the other texts by this author, the daughter of Takasue, including the Hamamatsu Chunagon Monogatari, which is another very famous text, which is attributed to her, and some other works of literature that she wrote as well. And specifically, these are works of fiction, right? And then, of course, the dreams. We have the whole chapter on her dreams. We have what I really liked this quote, the force of words, and how um, from the Buddhist perspective, fiction is a distraction and it is an evil in a sense because it distracts you from reality. And yet, even though her first dream warns her of this, and the priest in her dream says, go and memorize the Lotus Sutra, she ignores that and fully devotes herself to this fiction. There's a couple dreams of hers that are connected to Amaterasu, and Amaterasu, who is the goddess of the sun in the Shinto faith, is always kind of connected to this imperial success. And for the daughter of Takasue, this is specifically the potential of success for her to work in the imperial court. And then there's the story of the monk of Hatsuse Temple. The monk is sent by the daughter of Takasue's mother on behalf of her to Hatsuse Temple, which is now Hase Temple or Hasedera. And he relates his dream. And there's some questions of like, is the monk's dream real or did he just make it up so that he had something to report back? And this dichotomy of you can either be very successful or very unsuccessful, and the development of that and the presence of that throughout the rest of the text. And then finally, her last dream about Amida Buddha and how it's connected to her first writings on her icon of Amida Buddha in her house outside of the capital before she moves at the very beginning. Um, I think that's it for my opening presentation.